Hi there, YouTube game Fear Tech Dropout here. If you are like me and you're either a millennial or you are a parent, you are probably aware that earlier this year at the D23 Expo, Disney announced that they're doing an expansion to their Disney World theme parks. Some of the highlights include a villains area, and what I'm talking about today is going to be the new Monsters Inc. land that they're going to be building. Now, for those of you who don't know about me, first off, my name's Elijah, hi. I have 4 kids, with my oldest being 10 years old, and my youngest is going to be turning 5 this year. So I think you can probably guesstimate how many times I have watched Monsters Inc. and Monsters University on top of like every other Disney Pixar movie there is. And because of the fact that I've spent so many hours in this world, I have a lot of questions that I am demanding that Disney answers with this new Monsters Inc. expansion. For those of you who don't know about Disney's philosophy with their theme parks, they want to do a immersive storytelling experience. So in bits and pieces throughout their themed world, you will find little bits of lore that add to the universe that you're experiencing. So because of that, we're going to talk about everything that I demand that Disney answers with this new Monsters Inc. theme park world land. Now, before we get too into it, this isn't really my normal type of video. This is just kind of some light work. My kids are back in school, so I like to do more ranting type of videos while they're doing that. If you want to see more of that, then go ahead, like, share, subscribe, hit the buttons, do all the explodey things and all that. But my main gig is doing video essays, so if that seems like your jam, check out some of my essays after this video. But now, let's go ahead and get into it. So I will say this right off the bat, I will give credit to the Monsters at Work show that aired on Disney Plus and then the Disney Channel. They actually do quite a bit to add to the world building of Monsters Inc., but in doing so, I'm a Sanderson fan. I have to know how this stuff works on a very minute level, if that makes sense. So at the end of the first Monsters Inc., we discover a new type of energy, laughter energy. And for one reason or another, it is found out that laughter energy is way more efficient than screaming energy because, it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. So you're conserving that energy because, as former President Donald Trump has said, you have a finite amount of energy when you are born. So, despite the fact that at the end of the first movie they say that laughter energy is more efficient than screams, for some reason throughout the Monsters at Work series, they're actually in competition with another factory called Fear Inc. I don't know if they're an offshoot or like a receiving branch of Fear Tech. Who knows? In the Monsters at Work show, Fear Inc. and Monsters Inc. are essentially competing head-to-head. Through some unknown means that are revealed throughout the show, they were actually able to make screams be more energy efficient and more powerful than laughter. So my main question is, how does this all work? In the show, they make a direct reference to stored laughter being like gigawatts. There's an episode where they have to build up like 1 million gigawatts within a single day in order to beat Fear Inc. or whatever. So my main question in this is not really the difference between screaming energy and laughter energy, although they're kind of two coins side the same side. What I really want to know is, how does this energy work in terms of being like a stored battery? And because of that, let's take this to the most logical conclusion here. They're trying to run an entire society on battery-powered operations. But then if they start trying to go into something that's like cold fusion or some sort of like nuclear-powered reactor, how would that work? The literal only thing that I can think of is that they find like the world's funniest kid or the world's scaredest kid, and they hook them up to a chair and just keep like feeding them with stimulus to have them laughing forever or have them screaming forever, just like that fear machine from the first movie, or more accurately, the golden throne of the Emperor of Mankind from Warhammer 40k, excuse me. So for those of you who don't know, the Emperor of Mankind is basically in the Schrodinger state between life and death, and he's also just this giant psychic beacon for the galaxy, and they have to feed in upwards of 1,000 psychically powered humans every day to keep this beacon going. I can't think of how else you could do some sort of like scream or laugh powered reactor unless you're somehow able to like have the laughs power themselves in like a perpetual motion device. But like, do you see why I have all these questions? It doesn't make sense. And then in the Monsters at Work show, first off, they go on vacations. Yeah, whatever, that's fine, that makes sense. But they go on vacations to the human world. That doesn't make sense. Why would they go on vacations to the human world where, first off, they could be seen, or, you know, there's like children everywhere? So, first off, do they go to just some sort of remote island that is all ran by monsters? If they do, how did they find this island? How did they populate it? How do they keep this like off the map? Do they have monsters that are surrounding the perimeter to act as sea monsters to keep people away? Are the monsters in Monsters Inc. the reason that we have things like Greek monsters and Greek creatures and Greek sea monsters? And on top of that, like with this door technology, it does not explain to me how the difference in things like time and time zones work, because yes, logically they start working when children are asleep, but within the first movie themselves, they have like doors that go to Haiti, they have doors that go to America, Japan, doors that go literally all around the world. So why do they have multiple factories of different places where you can produce scream technology and all that if you can do it all from one centralized location? And as I stated before, the time difference between these two worlds is not exactly clear. They would have you believe that everything is kind of one-to-one, also taking into account the different time zones of Earth and all that other stuff. But here's the thing. In the original sequel that they planned to do for Monsters Inc. 2, it was going to have Mike and Sully traveling back and forth between the human world and the monster world trying to find Boo. But the whole twist of that movie that's never going to come out was that the human that they were interacting with or they were coming across during the course of their adventures was actually an old version of Boo, like an elderly Boo. And this was going to basically be some sort of talking point about how time works differently between the monsters world and the real world. And also in that vacation episode of Monsters at Work, they take like an inspector, a factory inspector, and they put him in the human world for, I think they say about 2 weeks, and they consider that like a vacation for him, so they let him go, very sitcom-y. But if that 2 weeks is equal to 2 weeks in the monster world, is that still going to be 2 weeks in the human world? Or was he just basically in there for like a day in the human world? It just doesn't make sense. And then going back to the whole thing about Greek-inspired creatures and myths, you gotta remember also in Monsters University, they literally say they have Greek games. They have fraternities and sororities. So how the hell did these people adopt Greek alphabets? And how did they develop a very Americanized college education culture with, you know, the different jackets, the frat houses, and all this stuff? So how much of monster culture is just appropriated human culture? You would think that with these monsters being literally a mixture of everything, including having like little to no genitals, they would have no reason to emulate a culture that is very, I guess, back then, a lot more binary than it is now. It just doesn't make sense. So yes, before you ask, I've probably seen these movies way too many times, which explains why I have all these questions that I demand that Disney answers with its new Monsters Inc. Land. But yeah, I will say my personal headcanon on this is that somehow the monsters had the technology to go through doors very, very early on while humans were still trying to, you know, get their stuff together in the Bronze Age. And because of that, that is why we have all the Greek monsters and all the Greek myths. But if the monsters had the door technology early enough to establish themselves as cultural myths, like folklore, cryptid, things like that, then how did none of that technology trickle over into the human world? Maybe that was the whole stuff with Roswell, New Mexico. Like, do you see where I'm going with this? Like, these monsters have an understanding of the Greek alphabet, they have an understanding of the English language, English writing, numerals, currency. They have international inspired things like a sushi restaurant, steakhouses. They have musicals, all very human culture things. And yet it is quite possibly pretty clear that time works differently. So are they in a time bubble? Is their dimension just move slower in time compared to Earth? Is it like a gravity thing, a rotation of the planet thing? Do the monsters even live on a planet? Like, do they live, for like the hollow Earth theory or whatever, do all the monsters live in the hollow Earth and maybe they rotate opposite, which is why they can do what they can do? Or maybe it's like Shadesmar. I told you, I'm a Sando fan. Maybe it's like Shadesmar, and maybe it's just like an inverse of the world above it, or the world in between realities, or perpendicularities, or whatever. It doesn't make sense, and I want to know. I need to know. So basically, I made this video to tell Disney to take my family to Monsters Inc. Land so I can sit here and nitpick lore. Long story short, basically what I am demanding is a year-by-year examination of the evolution of monsters in the Monsters Inc. universe, starting from single-celled monster organisms, single-celled monster microbes, the diverse and very rich plethora of monsters that we have now, like the big Godzilla chicken dude. Was that a Baba Yaga? See, it just doesn't make sense. You see what I'm talking about? So, I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I only watched a couple episodes of the Monsters at Work show for this video, because I just wanted to put something out. If you want me to actually go through those 2 seasons and update this video on any world-building implications or lore, go ahead, leave a comment, like, subscribe, whatever, and, you know, obviously if this video does well enough, I will do it. But other than that, I can't think of anything else that I really need to answer. I just want to know how this world works in parallel with the human world, and how much did they take from the human world in order to build their own society? Because I would assume that, you know, maybe they scared people, maybe they accidentally, you know, some people. They would probably take some of the stuff back, especially if they could find it useful. So, yeah, Disney, if you are watching, Disney, if you're listening, I want the deets on the world and the lore and how time works. And maybe, how about some monster space travel? Can I know about that as well? Anyways, this is a very rambling, gardening inspired video. If you know, you know. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. We're just having fun. My kids are back in school now. I'm in a pretty good mood, so this is what you get. I'm working on some other stuff as well, so I'll have a more traditional video out soon. But in the meantime, let me know what you think. Do you have any questions about the Monsters Inc. world that you want answered by Disney? Leave a comment down below with your questions. Also, do you have any other questions, like the villains world or whatever that they're working on, and I can't remember what the other one is, but like, so the villains world, is it just gonna be like each villain's secret lair or something like that? Like, I have questions. Also, I want to go to that Tron ride. That looks cool. So yeah, I guess I will go from there. I don't have anything else to say, so like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTubey things, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.